Chapter 16, Methods of Delivery. Chapter 17, Your Voice in Delivery. And Chapter 18, Your Body in Delivery. So we're going to talk about how to deliver your speech, because this is what we're going to be essentially talking about all semester long. So I'm going to apply it to your assignment. First, let me review your assignment a little bit, okay? So first of all, what you're doing is a speech of introduction. Now, normally in a face-to-face class, I set this up differently. In a face-to-face class, normally I have you interview each other. You then write the speech of introduction for your classmate. It works out very well. But because we're in this kind of pandemic situation, I thought for the first speech that might be a little unwieldy. And so instead, you are still learning how to write a speech of introduction as if you're introducing a guest speaker, but you're writing it for yourself. But you're not saying I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You're saying he's doing this, she's doing this, and then you're saying, please welcome, and it's your name at the end. So you're writing the speech of introduction as if you're the main speaker, okay? And I know that may sound a little confusing, but I think if you read the directions, you'll catch on. Look at that example speech, and I'm going to do that sample speech again because I'm using it for delivery. So that's what you're doing. The speech of introduction is a very good skill to have because you never know in your real life when you might be called upon to introduce someone, either at work, maybe you're an officer in a student organization, so maybe you have a banquet with a guest speaker. Normally I have guest speakers into the classroom, so I do a quick little speech of introduction for them instead of just saying, here's so-and-so. So very good skill to have. Remember, it's a very conventional speech. What do I mean by that? People have typically heard them a lot, so they expect certain things. They expect to be welcome. You welcome the audience. You state the occasion. Why is everybody here? Why is everyone gathered? Then you briefly preview the speaker's topic. What is this main speaker going to talk to us about today? Then the body paragraph, that's the longer one. In the body paragraph, that's where you warm up the audience. Hey audience, this is why we asked this person to speak today and or hired them. Here's why you should listen to them, because they're qualified. You list their qualifications, their background, their achievements, anything like that, right? So that warms up the audience. Here's who the speaker is, why you should listen to them. Then the third part is you kind of do a little wrap up and you ask the audience to welcome the speaker. Okay. Now in your speech, if you look at that handout, you have very specific things you're going to cover. So you're going to have your little introduction, your introductory part. The body is going to include all those categories off that Notes About Me handout. So it's fantastic that you already filled it out. Some of you sent it in, but the way I'm going to grade that handout is how you've applied it in your speech of introduction. So make sure you include all the categories in that Notes About Me and why. Again, look at the sample speech. I'm going to do that sample speech for you in just a minute. So in any case, remember the things you've achieved, your hobbies, personal life notes, your interests, your long-range goals. Remember, long-range goals are where you see yourself 5 years from now. What do you want to have accomplished 5 years from now? Short-term goals are typically what you want to have accomplished 1 year from now. So 5-year goal, that's a great place to write down or to include in the speech what you want to be when you grow up, okay? That's also a very standard job interview question. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your 5-year goals? What's your 5-year plan? So that's a typical job interview question, by the way. Also, books, movies, and also on the handout, it should have said music. So books, movies, and music that interests you and why. So make sure you tell us why. Why do you want to be that? Why are these your hobbies? You know, maybe you tell us a little bit of something about your family. That's under your personal, you know, your personal life notes. It doesn't have to be too personal, as I said in the PowerPoint, but just something that distinguishes you. And you never know, class, what might happen in a speech class. I actually had two of my former speech students. This was a while back. I was walking to my car in the parking lot, and they're like, Miss," and so they come running up to me, and I'm like, yeah, what's up? And they gave me an invitation to their wedding. Huh? They had met in Speech 1315 doing this assignment, okay? And who knows, ended up getting married. Huh? You never know. You never know what can happen in speech class. And who knows, online, I don't know, people do online dating. You never know, class. But anyway, so personal life notes, single, divorced, married, available. Hey, you never know what can happen. But in all seriousness, and then of course, the kicker on that handout is the metaphor. And I don't care if it's a metaphor, simile, or analogy. All three of those words are a comparison, where you compare yourself to something that captures an aspect of your personality. Okay, and I gave some examples in the PowerPoint, like cartoon characters. I'm like Taz because I'm always in a whirlwind and have a really bad temper, right? Or you can even use beverages. I'm like a glass of pink bubbling champagne because I have an effervescent personality and I'm the life of the party, right? So it can be anything. And I gave you more examples in the PowerPoint, but I did want to go over that. Make sure you include that comparison, metaphor slash simile slash analogy in the speech. Metaphor, a comparison not using like or as. Simile, a comparison using like or as. Analogies have usually expanded either one of those, the metaphor or simile. So we'll see. Do your English teachers love you? Did you remember that? But again, class, I don't care. I'm after the comparison. And so please make sure you include that. Why do you have to do that? I'm already introducing you to a nice rhetorical device. When you can create metaphors and similes, create pictures in the audience's mind, they're evocative, so you can invoke several meanings at once. There's different meanings that are there, and it's easier for an audience to hang on to a picture in their mind than a bunch of words. Are you with me? So make sure in the body of your speech of introduction that you include all those categories from the Notes About Me handout, right? So make sure you do that. And then, of course, at the end, you welcome the speaker, but in this case, you use your name, right? Because you're supposedly the main event speaker. So that's kind of the speech of introduction in a nutshell. And I am going to be demonstrating that for you. But first, I want to talk about delivery. So that's the basic organization. Again, I covered this more in detail in the PowerPoint, and my voice should be underneath that PowerPoint explaining it. I ran into some difficulties turning it into a video. I have no idea why, but in any case, go back. The PowerPoint takes you through step by step what to do on the assignment. So that's the content, the written. Now let's talk delivery, okay? So we're moving on now to chapter 16, 17, and 18. Are you still awake, class? I am. So, delivery, here we go. So, as I mentioned in the instructions, your delivery is the actual speech. It's how you're delivering the speech. So, there's a couple things here. The first chapter, chapter 16, talks about methods of delivery. There's 4 basic methods. There's manuscript method, and that is where you have the whole speech written down, or in some cases, it's on a teleprompter, right? If you're a politician or the president of the United States, a lot of times it's up there on the teleprompter. But in any case, manuscript delivery is you have the whole speech there in front of you and you're reading it, okay? Or you're at least looking at it. You're typically reading it to us. You have the whole manuscript there. So why would you want to use manuscript delivery? When? What would be the advantage? Well, when the precise wording is very important. So if you're in a mass audience situation, your speech is going to be watched by thousands and thousands of people. It might behoove you to really make sure that your vocabulary is precise and that you say what you meant to say. Because if you don't, if you flub it up, there's a million people on social media and commentators that are going to come after you, right? So when the wording, when it's very important that the wording is precise, manuscript delivery. Then there's another type of delivery called extemporaneous delivery. Extemporaneous delivery. Speech people normally just shorten it to extemp, okay? And again, you can look this up in your book. Extemporaneous, nice big word, okay? Or extemp, as we call it in speech. Extemporaneous speaking is really the preferred method of speaking. Why? Because typically you have an outline of your speech. This is where your note cards will come in. And so you have an outline of your speech and you practice the speech so that you know the speech. It's not exactly memorized, it's learned, okay? It's learned. And so that you are able to talk to us, it frees you up to talk to us, but then you can glance down at your notes. Your notes jog your memory, your outline keeps you in the proper order, and you can be a little spontaneous. You can add something if something occurs to you. You could play off your audience a little bit if you need to. So, but it still allows you to really stick to your points, right? So speaking from an outline, extemporaneous speaking. Then there's also manuscript extemp. Then there's also memorized. Now memorized, yes, you're memorizing the speech word for word. So here's another example where if the word choice is very important, then you're memorizing the speech. You're memorizing it, and it's pretty much word for word. But the problem with having a speech that's memorized is, oh my God, what happens if you blank out? Because you don't have any notes to look at to jog your memory. So that's a disadvantage of the memorized speech. And sometimes it sounds memorized, right? People will, you'll kind of sound like a robot. So there's memorized, but there is a time and place for that. When you want your words to be precise, but you also want to make sure you're making eye contact, etc., that would be the way to go. So manuscript delivery, extemporaneous delivery, memorized delivery, and then there's something called impromptu. Impromptu speaking. Impromptu speaking is where you're speaking off the cuff or with little preparation. So if you're sitting there in class, and a face-to-face class. Hold on. Patrick, no, I'm recording. Mute that. Anyway, sorry. My son's getting on PlayStation or something. Anyway, so impromptu, when you're sitting in class and the professor asks you a question, okay, about the reading or whatever, now, oh, horror, you have to answer the question and come up with the answer and sound relatively intelligent. Guess what? That's impromptu speaking. Okay, that's a form of impromptu speaking. A lot of times in speech tournaments, the participant will draw a topic, quite literally, a topic out of a hat or a quote or whatever it is, and they have 7 minutes, 2 minutes to kind of organize their thoughts and 5 minutes to give the speech. And it's got to be done in 7 minutes. That's impromptu. And it's amazing. Some of those speeches are really fantastic. So in any case, those are our 4 methods of delivery: manuscript, extemporaneous, memorized, and impromptu. Why am I telling you this? Because for the delivery of this speech of introduction, you get a choice. You, since it's your first speech, you can use manuscript delivery, where you have the whole speech written out. I'm going to be delivering it off my phone, which is a big mistake. I really should have written this. I should have printed this out, but I've seen some people, they prefer to do it off their phone. Okay. But in any case, you can do it manuscript, or you can use note cards and have the little outline of the things you want to say, and you can do it extemporaneously. So again, you get a choice for this one. Now, let's move to the next chapter, chapter 17. What do you do? Because as it says on your assignment, I don't care if it's manuscript, because one of the disadvantages of manuscript delivery, if you don't have a teleprompter, is the person reads along and it sounds like they're reading blah 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 blah. They sit there and they read it. They look up, but they're not really making eye contact with people, and it's boring. It sounds boring. So you don't want to do that in manuscript delivery. Even if it's manuscript, you're not going to be sitting there reading head down into your paper. La 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 like this, and see, all you see is the top of my head. Wrongo. So even with manuscript delivery, you want to practice the speech so that you're looking up a lot, so that your voice is not just like this in a monotone. This is what's very boring. You know, if you got, maybe you have some classes or you've gone to speaking events and the speaker talks like this. They do not change pitch. They do not change rate. They do not change their tone. Nothing changes. And after about 5 minutes, you want to kill them or kill yourself. Anyway, so probably no one is going to deliver the speech in a true monotone, but you want to vary your voice. And so we'll talk about that. And then the second part is your body. You don't want your body all like this and boring, okay? You want some expressiveness. This is what we're after. So whether you're doing manuscript or really any of the methods, you want to vary your voice and have an expressive body. So let's talk about this. First, we'll talk about the voice. So when we talk about the voice, it's going to sound very upfront, but volume is important. That's the first thing that is the most important, because if people can't hear you, then there's no point in you giving the speech. If people can't hear you, what you're saying, you might as well not be up there, right? So you have to have volume. And in speech class, especially, you're not going to have to worry about this so much now, because we're not face-to-face, but typically we talk about projection, okay, in speech class. You project your voice out, and it's not just projecting your voice, it's projecting your whole sense of self out to the audience, yes? So you're projecting your voice out, and you're projecting your whole sense of self, your energy, everything out to the audience. And right now you're laughing at me, aren't you? Because guess what? When we get up there in front of an audience, what do a lot of us want to do? It's like, we want to shrink, okay? And no, that will not work. We cannot shrink. We have to project out. So projection is not only your voice, but also your body. And it also involves a muscle here called the diaphragm. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later, because for a recorded speech, it's not going to be such an issue. You guys kind of luck out. But what you want to do, there's a muscle here called the diaphragm, and when you are in a face-to-face situation where maybe you don't have a microphone, you want to breathe in, and this muscle is right here. You place the air here, and then you're able to project. The muscle contracts as you project your voice out, and you can speak quite loudly without straining your voice. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, lie down, flat on your back. We're always breathing through our lungs. Okay, let's just establish that. But it's air placement. So when you lie flat on your back, the air also goes down here. And so and your stomach goes up and down when you're breathing in and out. So when you're speaking and standing up, you want to do the same thing. But again, you all kind of look out, because since this is not you know, you're going to be recording them. It's not going to be such an issue. But do make sure your volume is turned up and that you're not talking like this. You know, you still have to speak loudly. You still want to have good volume. So volume's the main thing. And when we talk about your voice, what else do you have? Pitch. Okay. Pitch is the relative highness or lowness of your voice. Okay. As I mentioned before, what you want to try to avoid is speaking in a monotone where you never change pitch. You never change pitch. Anyway, so most of us kind of have a vocal range, but in any case, you want to kind of start in your what we call your lower register or your mid range. That way, because you want to vary your pitch, that way you can go up in pitch and then you can come back down in pitch. Do you see? So you want to kind of start lower. Because if you start up here in a higher pitched voice, first of all, how pleasant is this to listen to? Not very. And now because you've started up here, you have nowhere else to go. Okay? So you want to start with your lower register. So you can go up and you can come back down. So that's your pitch. You also have your rate. How fast or how slow are you speaking? And the name of the game with all of this class is variety. This is called vocal variety. So, are there parts of your speech you can speed up a little because it's very exciting and you're excited about this? And then, where can you slow the speech down? Because this point is very important. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so varying the rate, volume, pitch, rate. What else do you have? You have inflection. That's where you change pitch when you inside a word. Inflection. I just actually did it, as a matter of fact. And oh, this is on page 132. That would have been nice to have told you, wouldn't have? So all of this about your voice starts on page 132. Well, actually, that's part of manuscript. 132. So your volume, pitch, and intonation, your tone of voice. You have a little box here that does talk about breathing from your diaphragm. Your speaking rate. Okay, intonation is the rising and falling of sound across phrases and sentences. So again, are you rising and falling as you speak? Inflection, a lot of times, is actually in the middle of a word. You don't have to get too bogged down on this class. The name of the game is to vary. Then, what else do you have at your disposal? Never underestimate the power of a well-placed pause. The power of a well-placed pause. So also remember to pause. So that's a good way. Pausing. Make sure you don't just run all your sentences together when you read. You want to pause for effect. So again, strive for vocal variety. The other thing you need to worry about with your voice is pronouncing words correctly, and also articulation. Articulation is making sure that you're not mumbling, right? You're articulating. You're making sure that you're pronouncing those consonants and vowels quite succinctly, because if not, then no one's going to be able to understand you and you're not enunciating. Do you see what I mean? If you didn't understand me, that was on purpose. You have to articulate and really get those T's and S's and all of that at the end of sentences, D's, so that you're not mumbling. Okay, we need to be able to understand you. That's called articulation. There's a fun little exercise. If you're still with me, I'll teach you a quick articulation exercise. So here we go. And I'll go through it first, and then you can practice this repeating. So it goes like this. I like to eat. I like to eat. I like to eat 8 apples and bananas. Okay, are you with me? Again, I like to eat. I like to eat. I like to eat 8 apples and bananas. See, and you over-articulate. Okay, now we're going to have a little fun. You take vowels, A, E, I, O, U. And now you substitute, we're going to start with A, and you substitute those in. So are you ready? Sounds like this. A lake to 8. A lake to 8. A lake to 8. 8 apples and bananas. Huh? Get your mouth moving around. So you want to try it? Here we go. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. A lake to 8. A lake to 8. A lake to 8. 8 apples and bananas. All right, good. Let's try it with I. I like to eat. I like to eat. I like to eat apples and bananas. Yeah? Yeah? Here we go again. I like to eat. I like to eat. I like to eat apples and bananas. Okay, so that was A, I. Let's try E. E leak to eat. E leak to eat. E leak to eat apples and bananas. And really get your mouth moving around, okay? Try it with me again. Here we go. E leak to eat. E leak to eat. E leak to eat apples and bananas. Okay, so we did A, E, I. Here we go with O. O loke to oat. O loke to oat. O loke to oat. Oat, opals, and bononos. Here we go. O loke to oat. O loke to oat. O loke to oat, oat, opals, and bononos. Good, you got the hang of it. And oo, the U. Oo luke to oot. Oo luke to oot. Oo luke to oot, oot, ooples, and boonoo-noos. Got it? Here we go with me. Oo luke to oot. Oo luke to oot. Oo luke to oot, oot, ooples, and boonoo-noos. So there you go. I like to eat 8 apples and bananas. Right here, class. Bananas and apples. Anyway, who came up with the brilliant idea to put these lousy stickers on every single piece of fruit? It drives me nuts. Anyway, okay, that's an aside, class. So your voice. So the name of the game is vocal variety. That's what you want to do. And read this chapter in your book. It goes over a few more things. It does have a great little checklist. As you practice, is your vocal delivery effective? Is your voice too loud or too soft? Do you avoid speaking in a monotone? Do you vary the stress or emphasis you place on words to clearly express your meaning? By the way, emphasis. You're moving along and you emphasize a word. Do you see that? Do you see that? Okay, that's emphasis. Is your rate of speech comfortable for listeners? What tends to happen when we get nervous is you speed up. So you don't, because you're thinking, oh my God, the faster I talk, the sooner this is going to be over and I can sit back down. Okay, this is more if you're in front of a live audience, but still. So we tend to speed up when we get nervous, but you don't want to talk too fast, because if you talk too fast, nobody's going to be able to understand you. On the other hand, you don't want to talk so slowly that people just want you to finish. Okay, so a nice normal rate of speaking. And do you avoid unnecessary vocal fillers? Here's the other big one that we're going to talk about all semester long. Ums. And And I just want to let you know that the next thing I want to say is, okay, do you see? So likes, you knows, that's my favorite one, you know. These are known as vocalized pauses because you are pausing, but you're vocalizing them, or vocal fillers. You know, you're just filling space with your voice. So you want to try uh, you want to try to avoid these if you can. Now, a few ums tossed in is not a big deal, but if you're constantly going and ah, not so much. And in job interview, too much of that looks like you don't know your stuff, you're not confident. In a speech, same thing. In a speech, same thing. Do you use silent pauses for strategic effect? And does your voice reflect a variety of emotional expressions because you want some emotion in your voice? And enthusiasm. You want to be enthusiastic. Otherwise, it's going to be boring to sit there and listen, right? So that's pretty much your voice in a nutshell. Let's talk about your body. Okay. So first thing, you want to have your feet about shoulder length apart when you stand. Soft knees. So you don't want a wide stance. You can't see the rest of my body, sorry. You don't want a wide stance, and you don't want your feet together like this because it just, I don't know, it looks like you're like a pole or something swinging in the wind. So feet about shoulder length apart, soft knees, and imagine that you're grounding yourself. Become aware of the sensation of the ground pushing up against your feet and your feet pushing down into the ground. Okay, you're stable and you can breathe in, right? Breathing in and grounding, kind of imagining that you have roots at the bottoms of your feet and the roots are growing down into the earth and you feel nice and stable. Soft knees, because you know, if you lock your knees, what happens? You're gonna faint, and I'm not there to give anybody CPR, so don't lock your knees. And I want you to imagine that you have an imaginary string attached to your belly button. It's going up through your spine, up the top of your head, and there's an imaginary giant hand up there, and it's holding the string just a little bit taut. Not so taut that you're on your tippy toes, and not so lax that you're like this, but just a little bit taut, so you're nice and aligned. You've got your feet on the floor, nice and stable. Your center right here, your belly button, or actually it's probably a little bit higher, but in any case, you've got that string that's just holding you nice and stable. You can kind of do some shoulder rolls, relax your shoulders, boom, and here you are, a nice body stance. What you want to try to avoid with your body is this, right? Slouching around, doing a bunch of fidgeting, very hard, because when we get to our unit about stage fright, you're going to find out that everything in you wants to move, and there's a reason for that. But in this case, you need to look poised and calm. It doesn't mean you have to sit here like a mummy, but you don't want to do, you don't want to be doing jazz hands, and happy feet. So here you are, and nice posture, etc. And try not to do a lot of fidgeting around. So that's the first. So that's one of the things. Also, eye contact is the key. So you want to make sure you maintain eye contact. Now, we're in front of the computer. Woo! So it's not that hard. But in a classroom or with a live audience and in a venue where you can actually see your audience, you would want to practice what's called scanning. So you would kind of just meet people's eyes for a few seconds. You move around the room. Okay, you scan. You talk here, you talk there, but you actually do look at people's eyes if you're in a classroom where you can actually see them. Now, if you're in a huge auditorium and there's 300 people and there's spotlights on you and it's just sort of a sea of black out there, that's different. But you still want to look out. But in any case, here, and I was doing that artificially as if I were looking at a class, but here you would be looking to the computer, right? Hello, here we are. You know, on the phones and I can never, my eyes are always looking somewhere else. I don't get it. I don't know where you get, I don't know where the hell you look. I'm always the one with the eyes somewhere else. Anyway, that's another aside. You also want facial expressions. You're alive. You want animation. That's what animation means. You're alive. So facial expressions, you know, smile or it's serious or hello. You want to get your face moving around, right? Don't become self-conscious. Just normal conversation. That's what you're after, is sort of a nice, comfortable conversation with your audience, right? So presenting the speech. So let your, you know, don't, I'm here and blah, 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 blah. No, you can have some facial expression, making eye contact, being excited to record your speech of introduction. Woohoo! So there we go. So facial expressions, maintaining eye contact. Again, you can go through your book. Again, feeling natural and expressing your meaning is what you're after. Never use expressions that are out of character for you or inappropriate to the speech occasion. You know, you don't want to sit here and say, oh yes, every year 3,000 people are killed in automobile accidents. You know, no, right? That's not right. Every year 3,000 people are killed in automobile accidents. Do you see that? You want your tone to and your expressions to match what you're saying. We're almost done, class. Gestures. We all talk about gestures, yeah? Yeah. Listen, just use gestures that feel natural. What do I do with my hands in a speech? You know what you can do with your hands? Put them down at your sides. Who knew? And then if you want to emphasize a point, you can gesture. You know, you emphasize another point, you can gesture. Who knew? And then they can go back down at your sides. That's all you have to worry about. You want to try not to fidget. I wouldn't put my hands behind your back. This actually implies hidden arsenal. This is, I know the thoughtful professor, let me give my lecture with my hands behind my back. Okay, that's all very nice. But really, class, we don't know what's behind your back. This is not, you want to keep yourself open to your audience. This implies, believe it or not, hidden arsenal. What's behind your back? Is it a bouquet of flowers? Is it a weapon? Is it a banana? Is it an apple? Okay, sorry, class. Anyway, but seriously, you want your hands in front, here at your sides, natural gestures. That's all you want to do. You can use what are called illustrative gestures or illustrators. If you're describing for us, if you're telling us, oh, the wire was this long or it was this high, these are illustrative gestures. Those are fine. But otherwise, just natural gestures, come back down to your sides. What you want to try to avoid are adapters. You're bored, you're scared. So you're playing with your ring, your necklace, your hair. You're going side to side like this. Try not to cross your legs. It makes you look like you have to go to the bathroom. Anyway, feet shoulder length apart. Nice posture, shoulders relaxed. Here I am. Natural gestures. Eye contact. Boom. Again, read your book. It does go through all this fun stuff. And what else? Natural spontaneous gestures, no exaggerated gestures, fidgeting, etc. Okay, there you go. And focus on the message that you're trying to give us. A little bit more about your hands. And then I'm going to finally wrap this up by reading the sample speech to you by doing manuscript delivery. So when you gesture, you don't want to use these big, and now let me show you my visual aid. It's like, really? It looks like you're going to fly away like a bird. Okay. And speaking of birds, when you gesture, you do not want to glue your elbows to your side. So can you see me? So that you're going like this. And this is a very important point because, and then this looks like you've seen happy feet one too many times. Okay. So no, Your elbows are away from your sides and just natural gestures. Yes. And if you're using note cards, you want to try not to gesture with the note card hand, right? Or if you have it's better to use note cards. But anyway, you don't, because look, it looks like you're waving a flag, right? And then you gesture, and this is rather distracting. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You want to gesture with the hand that is not holding anything. Yes. You also don't want to gesture down too low. Okay. We wonder what the heck you're doing. And you don't want to gesture too high up here. Otherwise, it can look like you're trying to kill a fly or something. You don't, so none of this, you're down here at your waist, typically when you gesture around. So those are just some tips, but practice your speech, practice it till you feel good with your speech of introduction. You guys are lucky because you can record it, right? You're not in front of this live audience. So record it or get someone to record you and listen, go back, watch it, see what you're doing, listen to yourself. Are you making any distracting gestures? So that's where this is kind of an advantage. And an example is worth 1,000 zillion words. We're almost done. Try to keep this to 50 minutes. And we'll see if I can make it through this. I need to practice this more, and I don't like it on the phone. It's much easier to see on a piece of paper. But nonetheless, I just close the window. Think about all the things we just talked about, and I actually have to adjust this because I'm used to doing it in front of a class, and I have to do it here for you. So here we go. If I was a student in speech class and I wanted to do a doctor, okay, that was a Freudian slip class. I do not want to do a doctor, okay? And if I wanted to be a doctor, God help us all, and I wanted to be a doctor, then here's what I might do with this assignment. So I'm pretending like I'm a student, a speech student. I've been given this speech of introduction assignment. I know that one of my goals is to be a doctor. Here's how I might write my speech of introduction and deliver it. Manuscript method. Welcome to the annual gala of the American Medical Association. It is so great to see so many talented doctors, nurses, and medical staff. Wow, what a fabulous turnout we've got tonight. Tonight also, we are honored to have with us Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Yes, the doctor you've all been waiting for. The very doctor who discovered the cure for COVID-19. This amazing physician is here tonight to tell us just how she and her team accomplished this feat, the incredible journey from vaccine to cure. But before she does, first let me tell you a little bit about her professional and personal journey. Her interest in medicine began when she was just a little girl. From a young age, she read everything she could find about viruses and disease. In high school, she won awards for her advanced work in biology and physiology and volunteered at the hospital. She also graduated from El Paso High School and Johns Hopkins Medical School at the top of her class. Some of her other accomplishments include, and here you would continue with your accomplishments that you wrote down. One of her short-term goals is to, whatever it is and why. Some of her long-term goals are, and you would explain why. Many people do not know that our doctor is also a writer. Her books feature a medical doctor who solves forensic mysteries. And here you would include other personal life notes. The books, movies, and music that inspire her are, and explain why. This physician compares her medical career and the COVID cure to the challenges of space exploration. Despite ongoing attacks, starships that explode, research battles, and attacks by alien pathogens, she and her crew persevered, and they are now moving ahead toward a cancer cure at warp speed. With her success and determination, our special guest has truly pushed the boundaries of our medical universe and is moving our field light years ahead. Please welcome Dr. Lisa McNeil to our gala. Yay! Okay. So, you get the hang of that, class? That might not have been the best delivery in the world, but you get the idea, right? So, let's go through your checklist. And I am going to, in somewhere in the handouts, probably upload a rubric where you can see how I'm going to grade this. So, but first let's go through things. So, what do? We welcomed the audience. What's the occasion? The annual gala of the American Medical Association. I tend to say gala, but I think that's really not correct. It depends on where you grew up. So gala, anyway. So that is the occasion. So you make sure you state it, and then here's the rapport. It's so great to see all these great nurses, etc. What a fabulous turnout. Then the moment you've all been waiting for, and preview the topic. This amazing physician is here tonight to tell us just how she and her team accomplished this feat, how they discovered COVID-19. Okay? Then the whole paragraph, we went into all the categories, and notice what is the metaphor. What's the metaphor / simile / analogy? Well, here it is. This physician compares her medical career and COVID cure to the challenges of space exploration. And then I carried it through starships that explode, research battles, attacks by alien pathogens. They persevered. They're continuing on at warp speed. So I sort of threaded that metaphor. Then at the very end, we welcome the guest, right? We welcome Dr. Lisa McNeil to the podium or to the event. So do you see how that works? So you can kind of go through and use this as use my example, which you have on the handout. Well, yeah, on the assignment handout as your example, but you're going to then put in your information, your metaphor, etc. By the way, I did that. I wrote that example for this semester, and I took advantage of what's called rhetorical context. And so that's why I made it like I had discovered the cure for COVID-19. Rhetorical context refers to events or situations that are happening in the world or around the event. So, for example, today, there's, if you hear people speak today, newscasters, whoever you're watching, rappers, social media, if anyone's doing a speech or giving a speech today, they're probably going to mention the fact that it's the anniversary of 9/11. So today's of course, the anniversary of 9/11. So that's an example of using rhetorical context. If you don't refer to that event, you look kind of out of touch because it was such a huge moment in our history. Of course, I remember exactly where I was when 9/11 happened. I remember that morning quite clearly. A lot of you weren't born yet. Some of you were little. Some of you are my age and you remember it. So, but let me tell you, you never know. Several years ago, I actually had a student in my class whose father was killed in 9/11. So it is a sobering day. And if you don't know what 9/11 is all about, hello, do some research. It's a potential informative speech topic. So I'm tired of talking. I'm 5 minutes over. You're probably tired of listening. I hope that helps. I just do the best that you can. Stay tuned because I am going to post a video that explains to you how to upload it. But it's not going to be me explaining it. Remember, it's going to be my colleague. But it's going to be up in black. I'll put it up in your Blackboard. And I wish I had some fabulous closing remark, but I don't. So I look forward to watching your speeches and learning about you and have some fun with this class. Have some fun. You notice how you can set it in the future as if you've already accomplished your goals. Yes? And as if you are the guest the keynote speaker, the main event, the guest speaker. So read those chapters. I will repeat them again. This is part 5, delivery, chapter 16, 17, and 18. And if not, just watch this lecture. Bye. Have a nice weekend. Look for the other videos. It may take me a while. And take care. Fake it till you make it, class.